Sure, you know Mark Twain? Behind the white suit and the wry grin, Samuel Langhorne Clemens was sharper, more stubborn, and far less predictable than the schoolbook legend. He loved provoking audiences, breaking other people's illusions, and expertly crafting his own. Let's strip off the gloss and look at Twain without the mask. The angelfish aquarium, pins, letters, and a moral gray zone. In 1907 to 1909, in the last years of his life, Twain built an aquarium of angelfish, his term for a circle of school-age girls roughly 10 to 16. He gave them enamel angelfish pins, signed letters, Grandpa, and invited them to his new home in Redding, Connecticut, which he first called Innocence at Home, before his daughter Clara's protest nudged him to the cooler Stormfield. In the spring and summer of 1908, letters to the fish made up a large share of his daily correspondence. The pins were ordered specially from Bermuda. Read with 21st century eyes, the roles, ages, and proximity make many readers uneasy. Twain, for his part, called the girls granddaughters, a tonic for grief and loneliness after deep family losses. Was this a tender, eccentric, surrogate grandparenting, or an ethically slippery dependence on adoration? Only one cigar at a time. A life of smoke and punchlines. Twain joked, "I've made it a rule to never smoke more than one cigar at a time." At his 70th birthday festivities, 1905, he quipped that he didn't smoke in his sleep and never abstains when awake. Friends recalled a daily average in the low 20s with legendary spurts up to 40. By 1909, doctors tried cutting him to 4 smokes a day, the bitterest deprivation, he complained. William Dean Howells remembered tiptoeing into Twain's bedroom to pluck a smoldering cigar from his friend's fingers. Twain rationalized the habit with deadpan swagger. "I don't need statistics, I use them to light my pipe." Behind the jokes were a 19th century constitution, an iron routine he claimed to have quit 1,000 times, and a performer's instinct. The cigar as prop, punctuation, and persona. Would he have lived longer without tobacco, and if so, would he have wanted those extra years? Tesla and Twain, friendship, high frequency, and the vibrator legend. In the spring of 1894, Twain spent time in Nikola Tesla's South Fifth Avenue laboratory. The famous photograph shows the author holding a vacuum lamp glowing wirelessly from high-frequency currents. Century magazine ran the image in April 1895. Their friendship was real. Twain adored gadgets and Tesla admired the writer's curiosity. Then there's the enduring lab legend. Tesla invited Twain to stand on a vibrating platform. After a minute or two of intense oscillation, Twain supposedly sprinted to the restroom, the device allegedly having powerful physiological effects. Biographers tread carefully. Vibration's bodily impact is plausible, but the colorful details travel mostly by anecdote. What's certain is that Twain wasn't just posing. He returned to the lab, relished the demos, and treated electricity with the same relish he reserved for tobacco and the stage. A duel, miscegenation, and a midnight getaway from Nevada. In Virginia City in 1864, the young reporter at the Territorial Enterprise ran a string of stinging newspaper hoaxes and satires. One jab about a charity ball, hinting at miscegenation, touched off a civic uproar. Twain publicly challenged rival editor James L. Laird to a duel. Other challenges flew back. Libels, counter-libels, and private letters burst into print. Nevada Territory had laws against dueling, and the temperature rose enough that Twain bolted west in a stagecoach by month's end. Later, he alchemized embarrassment into literature, How I Escaped Being Killed in a Duel, and scenes in Roughing It. But in real time, it was reputational shrapnel, a prankster's bravado meeting the hard edge of frontier honor codes, politics, and press wars. The episode marks an early pattern Twain would refine for decades, turning public fiasco into public performance. Mental telegraphy, a prophetic dream and letters never mailed. In 1858, Twain dreamed of his younger brother Henry lying in a metal coffin, dressed in Twain's own suit, crowned with white roses and a single red bloom at the center. Weeks later, the steamboat Pennsylvania exploded, Henry died, and the funeral tableau, Twain later wrote, eerily matched the dream. The shock fed a lifelong curiosity about mind-to-mind coincidences. Twain corresponded with the Society for Psychical Research and published Mental Telegraphy, 1891, and Mental Telegraphy Again, 1895, in Harper's, narrating episodes where he'd draft a letter on a sudden impulse, only to receive a strikingly similar message from the intended recipient days later, his own draft still unsent. Skeptics call it selection bias. Twain called it a telegraph of the mind, an invisible wire strung across a distance. Either way, it shows the empiricist satirist enthralled by the riddles of consciousness. To the person sitting in darkness. Missionaries, China, and a firestorm. In February 1901, Twain published To the Person Sitting in Darkness in the North American Review, a lacerating satire of American and European imperialism after the Boxer Uprising. He widened the blast radius to include American missionary practices in China, fueling a very public dispute over indemnities and moral conduct abroad. Churches and editors fired back. Anti-imperialist leagues reprinted and circulated the essay by the tens of thousands. Twain neither apologized nor softened. He doubled down in follow-ups, insisting that piety and empire made a poisonous pair. The controversy shows him at maximum voltage, a moral realist who refused to grant his side a pass, even at the cost of popularity. It's also the flip side of his brand of humor, laughter as the knife that opens a wound so the audience can see what's festering inside. Manuscripts for later, truths he saved for after he was gone. Two of Twain's sharpest works stayed in the drawer. The War Prayer, written circa 1905, argues that praying for victory is inseparable from praying for the destruction of someone else's sons. He judged it too scorching for publication in his lifetime. It appeared in Europe and elsewhere, 1923, after World War I had made its point in blood. Letters from the Earth, Satan's sardonic commentary on human religion and sexual ethics, was blocked by his daughter Clara in 1939 as damaging to her father's image, and finally published in 1962. Twain often said that only the dead can tell the whole truth. In these pages, the avuncular humorist gives way to the unsentimental heretic, willing to take his arguments to their logical ends, if the world would hear them only after he could no longer be made to pay. The Page Machine, $300,000 to dust, and a Debtor's World Tour. Obsessed with typesetting technology, Twain poured a fortune, eventually around $300,000, into James Page's intricate 18,000-part compositor. The machine malfunctioned, the market moved to linotype, and in 1894 Twain's publishing firm collapsed. Enter Standard Oil magnate Henry Huddleston Rogers, who helped restructure Twain's finances, while the author embarked on a grueling 1895 to 1896 lecture tour that circled the globe, Canton to Cape Town and beyond, to repay creditors. It nearly buried him. It also remade him. On stage, he became a new kind of Twain, an international act whose timing, barbs, and melancholy gave audiences an unforgettable show. Most strikingly, after formal bankruptcy, he insisted on paying every debt in full. It's the paradox at his core, a satirist who mocked Victorian virtue, and a debtor who honored it to the last penny. From a two-week Confederate to an anti-lynching scourge. In the summer of 1861, Clemens briefly mustered with the pro-Confederate Marion Rangers in Missouri. 2 weeks of playing soldier, he later sneered in The Private History of a Campaign That Failed, 1885. He slipped away before the real killing started, and schoolbooks often leave the episode in the footnotes. The later arc is the surprise. In 1901, he wrote the blistering essay, The United States of Lyncherdom, so incendiary he left it unpublished. It surfaced only after his death, and on December 24, 1885, he wrote Yale Law School offering to fund the education of Warner T. McGuinn, a gifted black student. We have robbed them of courage. The shame is ours, not theirs, and we must pay for it. The journey from youthful Southern leanings to mature, anguished honesty is the most American thing about him. Contradiction wrestling itself toward conscience.